You're listening to M.T.V.B. Podcast. Movies, TV, video and board games. This show may contain swearing.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the M.T.V.B. podcast, the podcast that talks about movies, TV shows, video games and board games. I'm your host Anthony, as well as most people know me as the Ant-Man, and welcome. This episode is going to be a movie-based episode, and we'll be talking about movie villains, should I say. Can't get my words right. Today I'm joined by a great bunch of friends of mine that love to talk about movies and movie villains. Guys, introduce yourselves around the table, please.
Yes, hello, I'm Philip Rankin, and I'm joining Anthony on this podcast.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Simon again from Bored Stupid.
And I'm Tim Morgan, the bearded movie snob.
Guys, thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for being
Si, do you want to do a quick plug-in for your podcast?
Yeah, cheers, bro. As I say, Bored Stupid, we talk about D&D, tabletop board gaming and everything awesome. You can find us at anchor.fm/boredstupid, that's B-O-A-R-D, and on Facebook at Stupid Board Nerds.
Nice. So yeah, movie villains, guys. Are we ready? You got your top fives ready for the end of the episode as well?
I'm ready to go.
Lovely. Here we go then. So my first question to you guys is, why do you favour the villains? Do you guys, you know, a great movie hero has to have a great movie villain. Villains are the reason why the protagonists exist, and why do you think the audiences often find themselves drawn to the villains themselves?
Oh, that's a hell of a question, Ant.
It is.
Starts off with an easy one, why don't you?
Well, they're the most entertaining. You can tell the actors having a good time playing that part.
And it's the focal point of it.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Si? What do you reckon?
Yeah, man, there's definitely a story to be told. You don't really get the level of excitement if you've just got everything going the right way. Not for the kind of movies we're talking about, obviously. You can have nice comedies where there's no real antagonism, but some of the best movies, some of the most iconic movies, the things that stick in our memory are overcoming the odds.
Well, yeah.
Those odds are normally stacked by having a really cool villain in various ways.
The classic story, isn't it?
It's kind of the age-old thing. There's always adversity.
As old as time.
Hell as old as time.
And start singing.
So what type of movie villain do you guys like? Is it the intriguing villains for something like as Joker, a funny villain, or someone that's a smart villain, say like Hannibal Lecter wise, maybe?
All of them almost.
All of them?
It's hard to depict them as like one fine thing. I just look at villains as one whole thing.
So it's not like what mood you're in.
Yeah, they all got their own like qualities about them. It depends what mood you're in. It's like when you want to watch a movie, you feel like you want to watch a futuristic film.
Yeah.
So you don't it's just movies in general. It's like villains are in general. Just good at being villains. There's different flavours and parts to them, but
yeah, I think Tim and I have done a similar kind of thing. You can almost find a villain in each genre, can't you? So, I mean, comedies don't tend to have a villain as such, but you can find them across a whole spectrum. So, sci-fi, your average drama, you've got thrillers, you've got action, all have varying different levels of quote unquote villain in there.
You've got to have someone as well that almost is the antithesis of opposite to the hero in the piece you're talking about. Like, if they have the traits that are particularly what you consider dastardly, and they would do anything to win, that's what, and they command the room, they command presence, and they own the room as well.
Yeah, totally.
I'm all for it.
Definitely.
So, how about a villain that would be a scene stealer, if you will? That's someone that's a villain that's better than the hero himself. I mean,
I want to touch on that, but that's kind of
that's cool.
That for later.
That's fine. And how do you feel about the simple good versus evil storyline? Do you like a villain that stands out because his ways are different?
Yeah. Well, it's that the hero has to win all the time. A villain only needs to win once. Yeah. So that there's more at stake, and there has to be stakes in order to make the story interesting as well for the protagonist. The hero needs a bit of a weight to go to win the day, as it were. But if a villain is always there and constantly ahead, it makes them more presentable. And obviously, you don't want them to win, but you kind of do.
Yeah.
Like, I want him to win just because he's smart or there's many variables, but like it's that always thing where if a villain wins once, that's enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Who's
one
to say
win.
who is the villain and who is the hero? Because then sometimes you can be completely spun.
A villain can think he's the doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if you ever noticed, or if you've watched it, the recent Cobra Kai series.
I haven't watched that. No.
Oh,
Well, they've spun it around, so they make out that Daniel LaRusso was the bad guy in all of it.
Oh, interesting.
I thought that was just like a YouTube meme. I didn't realise that was the focus of the
it's
story.
an actual thing too. Like when so you hear the bad guy's version of his story, and he makes
you understand.
Yeah,
Who's
so-
to say what's good or bad then, like, depending on what side. Say if you're born one side of the world compared
Absolutely.
to another, then their news media is going to make you think a certain way. So therefore, who's to say that their way is right and ours is wrong? You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
Getting political now.
It's good, but it's good how it's both sides of the story.
Yeah, well,
so you're always prone to know that this was the bad guy for so many years. Actually, oh, hang on, it turns out this guy made the first move. He's the bad guy.
Yeah, it's like we've all got dark sides to us. We just don't, we can't explore it.
Hey. No joking.
I'm a good guy.
So Tim to start
That's what
seeing
Hill
Tim
says.
Minchin then.
Also, I was going to touch up on, like Simon brought up thrillers earlier on. So thrillers tend to be based on true events or based on real life stories.
Something that could happen.
Yeah. Do you root for the bad guys in those sort of films?
It all depends what his motives are or what the intent is. There's like, obviously the villain's going to be bad either way, but sometimes if it has more character, more on-screen presence, more panache, more like Shakespearean qualities about him, then I admire that role.
Yeah,
Okay.
the perspective and the presentation really makes a difference.
Yeah. Like he's having fun. That person's having fun.
Having fun killing real people.
He's almost being pandering towards the audience and towards the protagonist and stuff. So. But
interesting,
yeah. But it's the mind games, and you appreciate the lengths he's going through and stuff. And it's just like he's being smart, methodical, or enjoying it too much that it's humorous.
You've got to break a few eggs to make an omelette. Almost.
Yeah. It's almost humorous.
Yeah, and again, there's different levels. I watched a really random film last night. It starred Vin Diesel. It's older than I realised. He had hair. I think it was still fake hair, but it looked super confusing.
Vin Diesel with hair.
Yeah, it was really threw me to start with. There's a movie called Find Me Guilty where he was playing a mobster basically from the late 80s.
Okay.
It was based on true events and it was the longest court case in the US judicial history. It went on for nearly 2 years. And he's like this classic Italian mobster wise guy kind of guy, but he's kind of making jokes constantly in the court and he's clearly the bad guy. He was caught literally red-handed selling drugs to DEA agents. But because he was the focus of the film, he was like the hero character, even though he's the bad guy. He's technically the villain as well. He'd done bad things. Yeah, you're still totally rooting for him to go through and I want him to win this court case.
See, that's interesting because especially if it's turned to real life stuff, you would. I don't know. I would feel like you root for the good guy more really than the bad guy. But then you two have you have interesting points on that matter.
Yeah. It's all how you view it.
Yeah,
it really all depends. Logically, you go for the good guy because no one wants the bad guy to win.
Yeah, especially when it comes to true stuff.
But, exactly. Yeah, but it's the performance. It's the craftsmanship of what they've put into it. I appreciate that.
Yeah. But when you figure out like the bad guys win on that sort of situation, it gives you the sense of reality to it. Like it does. It's never good all the time at the end of the day, is it? So
exactly, yeah.
So it's a good eye opener to people that are like root for the good guy, but it's like oh shit, he actually got away.
Yeah. And plus, plus the actors who are playing bad guys are obviously like generally good people in real life because they're just actors, they're earning a living. They're not like corporate politicians or anything like that. So they're playing parts of people they would never be in real life. Yeah, and that must be like kind of fun to do, like just to be a bad guy, just to get all that crap out of you. Almost like if you've got like a lot of shit, everyone has like dark stuff inside them, so you just want to get it out on screen or put it in a projection of a character that you're portraying.
They must as well. They must have a good understanding of almost psychology to play a certain role. You have to know what obviously like behavioural traits are to be the antagonist. So, for example, don't smile, wear the same suit, so you look a certain way. So, I'm sure world leaders from across the world always did that. So you look a certain way in front of your public. It's all about the public perception of you, and if you can command, what would you call it, like charisma? Is it? It's almost like an anti-charisma.
Yeah. It's almost like poker.
Yeah,
your position of it, your body language, and your manners, and how you present yourself. It's a threat. It throws the other person off.
Yeah, you kind of remove that facility for anyone to question anything other than the exact thing that you've chosen to say, because you take out all of the other stuff. Like, oh no, that is that image. Yeah. There's no questioning that image. So now we listen to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And it adds to the intrigue, it adds to that strong charismatic performance. Even if it's a negative charisma, as you say, it's impactful, and you go, oh, actually, yeah, I do. If they're so convinced, there's got to be a reason for it. And you kind of start potentially getting into the psychology of it, going, oh yeah, I wonder why.
I wonder why they're so fucked up.
Yeah.
Cool. So kind of going back to a recent question, how do you guys feel about comedic villains? I mean, a villain that you can appreciate but laugh at the same time. Does he go above them beyond the list?
Like most of my list. Like,
Is it really?
I understood that most of you might have picked something a little bit more like in the thriller aspect of things, or particular archetypal villain. But I more lean towards the ones that make me laugh. So obviously, if I'm watching a new film, I'm just hoping to see who the person is portray that toxic, slimy individual, and then I'll be sitting in the cinema with Tim or Scott, and we'll just be like sitting there going, "Yeah," do you know what I mean?
Just cheering for them.
Yeah,
this is it.
To be honest, in comedies, they work the best. They have the best lines, the best jokes, because they're the ones that are like ridiculously over the top and very over animated. And it's like there's that forcefulness of just trying to be a badass.
Yeah, they've got free reign to just lean into every
they can
ridiculous
they
thing.
can push the boundary and go a little bit further, and it's just more fun. And the jokes work better. Yeah, always with the villains.
And that's some of the points when actors do bad guys, they have a choice between being the bad guy or good guy. They always say they have more fun being the bad guy.
Of course, yeah.
So,
and you can see that on screen. You can watch them.
It kind of feels like that when you're the good guy, there's rules. Whereas a bad guy, you're all
That's
in.
exactly, you need to be reserved, even if you've got near endless power, like some of the comic book superhero type heroes have.
Yeah.
They still need to be reserved and withheld by society structure. Yeah. Although that then does create, your Wolverine type characters which ignore some of that and therefore are distrusted by the populace at large.
Sure.
We know from the perspective again that's presented to us that they're not villainous.
Yeah.
But equally they're sometimes walking that line of, is this guy actually doing stuff in the best interest of the world, or is he much more of a selfish thing?
Well, it's that they're fighting for the good whilst trying to fight their own battles inside, and then it's that combination of like trying to get both in there, self-realization, and then the villain's trying to stop all that. He's the obstacle.
What do they say? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I think a lot of villains, they have good intentions when they start out, but then all of a sudden,
absolutely,
they feed off what the benefits are of their position.
There's always a reason as to why they are.
But that's kind of goes back to with comic book villains. That a lot of their intentions are for the good. I mean, if you look at Thanos, for example, his reason for taking out half the universe was to survive later in the years. It makes sense. So he's not in theory a bad guy, but you have to kill a million to save billions at the end of the day. It's one of those hard choices as a bad guy, determine whether they're good or bad.
Soundly it makes sense, but genocide is always wrong.
Yeah.
So it's that really thin line.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the notes I put down. I kind of made a short list of things that make interesting villains. It's having that misalignment with the general idea in society. It's not that people argue against it directly. It's just, as you say, Tim, it's more, you can't do that now, despite everyone knowing what benefit it will be having in the future. Like, well, no, that's terrible. It instantly, despite the best intentions of the character, like instantly makes them a villain by default.
Yeah. It's the ego.
What they're doing at this point is villainous, technically.
Absolutely.
The loss of humanity, and it's just been taken over by their own egos.
That's it. Exactly. So, so we've touched upon the comedic ones. Does the look of a villain determine your choice as well? Like if he has specific armor or makeup or a certain method to his madness, if you will.
Kind of villains wear makeup. I wonder what you might be talking about.
Well, my number one is heavily in makeup, so hint.
I think they've got to like have a curly moustache, haven't they? And then a cape of some sort, and they've got to like tie damsels to the track.
Kenneth Branagh and Wild Wild West.
I nearly put, not on my top 5, but I nearly put...
Shut up, did he?
Just as something dumb to have.
God.
Yeah. I think it's not just the attires they wear; it's the facial expressions as well.
Yes, that's what, yeah.
I always look out for the facial expressions, like the gutterness, like the whole I'm pissed off face, or or smugness. Smugness is one of my favorite facial expressions for any villain. I love a confident villain that's so wrapped up in his own self ego and self sort of presence. It's just funny.
Yeah,
I find it so humorous because it's so ridiculous almost that he's pushing himself so hard to be a badass.
Yeah,
and I love that. It's so fun.
Anything on that, Phil?
Yeah, just like I say, I'm sure when I talk about my list, you'll see where I'm
that's
going
fair.
with
That's
it.
fair.
Yeah.
Also, like I said, the first question is that the bad guys are getting very well into the limelight now. Like we have last year's Joker film, which is literally about him, whether it makes him the good or bad thing. Do you think they should do that with other well-known villains within the movie industry or comic history?
Well, it goes back to the thing where it's there's many types of villains, so whether there's enough of them, I don't know if that's a real factor. But it's good to see that. But like I said, there's many forms of villains and their traits. So yeah, that's just one of those things, and that's probably the highest one to top because they're the more intriguing ones to watch.
Yeah, having that depth of character.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Phil saying earlier on about how their intentions are good to start with and then lead up to their madness at the end.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I would argue that last year's Joker specifically, he's not a villain. As much as he's based on the historical comic book character that is an archetypal villain, I would argue that Joaquin Phoenix's is not that.
Yeah, because it's just mentally unstable.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, you see so much. Because he had an entire film of exploration, and you can see everything that goes into making up his character. He's just some poor. Yes, he does something terrible towards the end, but I don't think overall he is a villain because I don't think he fits enough of the criteria in my head to make him something of that. He'd
be more a vigilante. Almost because, like I say, his intentions mean good for him, but obviously to an outsider, they're going to look and be perceived as bad intentions.
I'm not sure vigilante is quite right in my head because that tends to be
political vigilante almost.
Yeah. Well, I think a vigilante is fighting for the common good where the supposed law aren't doing so. But I think Joker was a bit more self-centered than that. Maybe,
we'll see.
As much as he was trying to make a point about the media and so on. It's a that particular film was very interesting to watch and kind of get into that psychology of it.
It's like the comic book world. Obviously now we're seeing the plethora of films coming out, which obviously in the 80s, 90s and 2000s, the comic book world was doing. They were investing in doing splitting and even combined ship of people. So you've got, what's the supervillains version in DC?
Suicides?
Stuff like that. That's now come apparent within a film because obviously they've got the backstory and all the comics that have been laid out over the last 2 decades. So there is a common market for that in the comic book world, and now it's coming to the big screen. So there's lots to use. But
would you like them to do an origin story on some of your top 5 villains, for example?
Sometimes, not all. Less is more sometimes. But
sometimes
depending on the pick,
really
obviously.
Yeah.
So that pretty much wraps up what our question-wise. Is there anything you guys want to throw in or add quickly before we do the top 5?
Let's do the top 5.
Yeah, I think I'll
any honourable mentions beforehand?
Do that in the top 5, I think.
Yeah, I think they're come.
Yeah,
they'll come.
Yeah,
right.
let's do it.
Let's do the top 5 then.
It's time for a top 5.
Right, so who would like to go first? Me? I'll go first then. Right, this list has changed so friggin' much since we announced this episode. It's just...
Yeah.
I suppose I need to write in my top 5 before it gets to me. So I know what you mean, man.
So
it's hard to make the cut, isn't it?
It's so hard to make the cut.
You've got to be a hill to the hills.
This is it, because I had so many other ones, and then we realised, actually, they shouldn't be in the list, because, again, we were talking about you can't have movie monsters in this and stuff like that. And I was like, he technically is a movie monster, so, again, I had to make the cut on that. So, my number 1 will be...
5.
Sorry, 5. Sorry, my number 5, sorry. Number 5, sorry. My number 5 will be Agent Smith from the Matrix series.
Nice, yeah.
I friggin' love this character, because... not only is Hugo Weaving just amazing as the character himself, he is literally the ultimate evil in the series. Even though the real world they live in, they're against robots that are trying to kill human civilization, full stop. even they ask for Neo's help at the end because Agent Smith is invading their real world at the same time. So he ultimately is the main bad guy in all of this. And you don't actually realise that to the end of the third movie, really.
And that's why he is number 1 on my list.
Is he really? Yeah. Oh, shit.
Oh, well, that's number 1. You're supposed to keep that surprise.
Well, no, if you merge it, we
do
merge
that
it together. Yeah.
Oh, we're doing that. That's the rules.
So why is he your number 1, sir?
Well, I mean, my top 5 is kind of arbitrary in order. I just had to choose someone. When I sat down to think about my top 5, he was very much at the forefront of my mind. I wasn't sure if anyone else would necessarily pick him. But yeah, as you say, he's kind of the epitome of villainous intention.
Absolutely.
From the very start, he is hell-bent on destruction. And that's a different type of villain that we haven't particularly mentioned so far. There's some that are trying to strive for their own goals.
Yeah.
And then I think there's others that are just purely hell-bent on, I will eliminate you. Very personal, very specific. You are the thing that cannot exist. I despise your existence. I will annihilate you.
Yeah.
And Agent Smith just nails that from start to finish. He has overbearing power over the rest of the characters. He has resources that he can't possibly handle. He has just this relentless goal partly because of his nature as an AI creation.
Rogue, isn't he?
Yeah.
He breaks off from obviously the original AI, which the computers or the machines, because they use us as a battery source, don't they?
That's right, yeah.
So they need to stay in the program, and he goes rogue, thinking that he can obviously gain maximum power and then take over the Matrix as his own. But then, I don't know, let's get into it.
He gains autonomy, basically, from the thing, because you could argue in the first film he is a product. I mean, it's quite literally a product of the thing that made him. So he's just carrying out what he was programmed to do.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, the classic takes the earpiece out. He becomes more self-aware.
So he's essentially a virus by reloading.
He breaks his own coding, and then with that knowledge, and that's one of the things that makes him like the key villain. Really, is
biggest threat.
He knows the difference and continues anyway, and says, well, yeah, I don't have to do it anymore, but I'm going to. Yeah. You need to end because you are a threat to me doing the utter destruction of everything that
he actually explains in the first one. He says, like, human beings are disease, you're a cancer. And,
it's the cure.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's pretty much his persona.
Yeah.
But I love how he has no limits as a bad guy. Like, he even starts infecting kids and stuff, where you thought other villains would have a heart and be like, no, I'll just stick to men and women now, straight away.
Yeah, it's a god complex as well. Having power over everything and everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that's why he's peak villain, because there is zero moral code. It was never programmed in him, and he doesn't, even when he becomes himself, doesn't find it in him.
Plus, he's not really human, so he's that makes him inhumane. There's no humanity. There's no mercy with him. He's just a program or a virus. So
but then, if
does that count as a human villain then?
Well,
actor-wise, he
does come into a villain, a human form at some point, doesn't he? Yeah,
that counts. Yeah.
So
okay.
I just want to mention as well, just while we were debating on what is heel and what's villain and what's good and stuff. Obviously, Agent Smith is the antagonist in the movie, but Neo being told that he's the one might also be the antagonist too. To give that amount of power to someone, and then it corrupts him, and then it might even be the case that there is never a one.
Yeah,
it's almost like the machine is telling him something, or do you know what I mean? To make him be fixed into a certain Messiah God complex, that he thinks he is all powerful, when really that's not the case
like
either.
Like a brainwash sort of
kind of like MK Ultra or whatever you want to call it. But it's just interesting to think how Agent Smith has his codes and morals that he wants to stick to, but Neo has his own codes and morals, but his only codes and morals are constructed by the original world that he lives in, which is a matrix. So how can you know that his...
It's two worlds colliding.
Yeah, that his good is the permitted good.
Yeah, his ethics have been built within the structure of the matrix. So it's an inbuilt self-destruction almost. It's just such a fascinating world. I really hope they don't cock up any new stuff that they do. I'm really worried, a bit like... I mean, I've not actually watched it yet, but apparently Bill and Ted, the new one, isn't.
No.
With that Keanu link in there. There's something... I mean, I like this... The sequels a lot more than a lot other people.
I used to love Reloaded for years. I used to think Reloaded was amazing up until obviously one certain scene in the movie. But I used to freaking love Reloaded. So it was just full on action. I was just like, keep giving it. Just being an action junkie I was then in 2003. What was I, 21 at the time?
Yeah,
it's like, keep giving me action, and then
it was adrenaline rush.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it was,
So yeah, they
But you can tell by the third film, he's just having a blast with this character now.
Definitely.
It's like
the maniacal laugh.
Yeah, like when I think he infects the Oracle at the beginning of the third one, and he does the villainous laugh, which he never did in the first two movies, and he's just like, this guy's just...
It's over the top, and it's very humorous, but it's just bad.
It's having a blast at the same time.
I was reading some notes on it earlier, and there were some subtle changes with the design of his outfit, and there's even...
Is there?
Yeah, apparently in the original movies, all of the agent suits are a very dark green, which I never really noticed. But then apparently in the sequels, his is jet black to differentiate.
Okay.
His sunglasses change subtly. His tie shape changes.
I knew the sunglasses, but I never knew the actual outfit. I just wasn't paying attention to it.
Yeah. So you can, it's that further deepening and exploration of his own self to go, no, I'm no longer that, and I'm not you either. I don't.
I'm my own thing.
Yeah, and I think I'm better than everything, and you will all end.
Yeah,
starting with Neo.
I love that shot in number 2 when he walks with the crows in the background.
Yeah,
and the all 50,000 Mr. Smiths versus one Neo. Shot beforehand.
His own
awesome.
self is his audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's pure the purity of self-service.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's
your 5.
That's number 5. So to you, sir, Tim.
All right. So my one again. This is very hard to put in order. Again, it was as we was touching earlier about they've all got different traits. So how do you put one better than the other? Which trait is better than the other? And that for me got a bit too convoluted. So I then decided to go by categories.
Okay.
And then going by villains of each category, and then put my categories in order of 5, which I found easier than putting villains in 5. So
okay.
So as a 5th category, I've gone for female villains.
Okay.
There's not many of them. That's the problem, but there is a handful that really stick to me.
Okay.
And I was torn between 2, and it was a really tough call. So I'm going to mention the one I was going to go with, and then I'm going to mention the one
your actual pick. Yep.
Yeah. So it was tough.
I'm excited to hear this.
It was tough.
He's hyping it up a bit now.
It was tough. So my original pick was going to be Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Personally, just because it used to be, I'll get into that a bit later, but it used to be my favourite film of all time from my early teens.
Yep.
So from early teens to early 20s, that was my favourite film, and I thought it was near perfection, as near as perfect a film as you can get, and the villain was fantastic. Nurse Ratched, very hateful, and despicable, and...
They're doing a standalone movie or something based on her,
series
right?
on Netflix.
It's a series, is it?
Yeah. Which I'll watch. I'm not sure if because I love the character. I mean, she's one of my favourite villains. Not the top one, though, but she's in there. But the one I went with in the end, and this is a bit of it iffy, but I went with Amy Dunn from Gone Girl.
Oh, shit, son.
Who is amazing and just one of the greatest female villains I've seen in film. Next to Nurse Ratched. Nurse Ratched, obviously...
Yeah, I forgot about her.
Because Nurse Ratched, she's obviously a great villain, but Amy Dunn has so much to offer. A lot more to offer. The mind games. Like, even the face expressions she pulls. The way she just, is always ahead of the game. Being maniacal and malicious and just playing so much mind games, and it's just amazing how in the ending is just quality. Just everything about her makes her a top female villain for me.
Yeah, she's
amazing.
Yeah,
she's a great choice.
She even gets away with it at the end, doesn't she?
Yeah, exactly. She wins. And
even when Ben Affleck's like, you're a colossal cunt.
Great phrase.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my 5th.
Yeah, intriguing. There is a bit of dilemma on that pick, but I'll get back to...
I know, because the Ratched, it's it was tough. It was tough. But.
I reckon the reason you maybe... Well, and I certainly hadn't thought about that character either, is the subtlety of it.
Yeah.
Because Nurse Ratched is almost a caricature type.
Yeah.
More in the... Not in a comic book sense, but she's... there's very kind of overamped...
Yeah.
Versus the subtlety. And I think the subtlety sometimes makes a villain superb.
Yes, exactly. With Nurse Ratched, she has that, because obviously her hair is shaped like horns, like she's a devil's horn.
Yeah.
So I love that kind of little touch. But so again, it was tough to choose between 2, but Amy Dunn just does a lot more. She offers so much more.
Yeah, man, I
so
love that
much
choice.
more.
It's a very interesting pick. I completely forgot about
Yeah.
character. In all fairness, I completely forgot about that film. I've only seen it since the cinema. I just never. Yeah, that's a damn good pick.
Yeah, I saw it 3 times at the cinema.
Wow, really?
I loved it.
I'm not saying it's not a bad movie.
She
it
was
just,
great.
I just haven't thought about that film for a while now.
I think I watched it with Matt Chapman the second time, and he even said, like, I want to marry her. Typical Matt. Shout out to Matt.
So sorry, you're number 5.
I've also got a female villain at my number 5, interestingly. And I've gone with Annie Wilkes from Misery.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought I'd go old school on this.
Yeah.
You
cock-a-doodie! Yeah, shit. Yeah, good.
kind
good
of
call.
another bit of the spectrum again of just kind of single-minded, almost mental illness, like spawned, as it were. She's given the perspective of a villain because that's where she came from.
Yeah.
I think in a different situation, you might see her as an unfortunate victim of her circumstances. But some of the actions she carries out in that movie is just, it's pure villainy, really, isn't it?
Yeah, just some of the stuff she does, man. It's just, oh my God. That scene when she does the ankles.
The hobbling,
Oh my God.
But,
I can never watch that scene, never.
It's too much.
But I think that's probably why I went with her rather than some of the other alternatives, is because of moments like that of such iconic imagery that if you say the hobbling scene in Misery, everyone goes, oh, kind of like reaches for their own ankles, and it's that kind of characterization that I really like, of just going, no, I don't. You're the weird one for wanting to not be in the bed writing. You know, why do you think it's weird that I'm keeping you here? Kind of, it's like, just an utter departure from normalcy. Without actually being like almost actively bad in the sense. She's just so misguided in her over admiration for this person, this poor writer. I thought it was really interesting.
No, it's weird you say that because it's Tim going back to saying there's a lot of female villains. There were a shit ton at late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, the Fatal Attraction era.
Fatal Attraction, Misery. You had
Single
Rebecca,
white female.
Rebecca De Mornay, Hand that Rocks the Cradle.
Yeah.
And they were all really intense, movies. So it was like you wanted them to fucking die.
Yeah, it's great.
But there was
There's a couple of more recent. If we're, I almost feel bad grouping all the girls together, but I feel like it's as good a place as any to put these in. I don't think they'll probably come up on anyone else's list. It's got the girls from Kill Bill series.
Okay, yeah.
You've got Elle Driver and Oren Ishii.
Yeah.
I mean, Oren Ishii, particularly
she's badass.
Lucy Liu's character.
Yeah.
My God, just does everything and more that the guys would do, because she is just vindictive. She's uncaring. But then again, now I'm just thinking about it. There's that little bit of the backstory that gives you that. I
was going to say she has a reason for it. She has a backstory for her character.
She's taken that and gone, well, revenge plus. Oh, this is getting me
times
somewhere.
10.
And then back to Phil's position earlier of, well, I'm now getting somewhere with this attitude.
Well, where does
let's take it to an extreme extent. And
it's funny you say that. You know the term vengeance and the term revenge. What's the difference?
Isn't vengeance like? Isn't it further going than revenge? Revenge is like, I just want to kill one person.
One's personal. One's
a receipt. The other's just, I'm going to murder everyone you love and know.
Yeah, so it's like that's how I see it. It's like justice. An ongoing thing. Yeah.
Street justice.
It probably gets swapped over. It probably revenge is the case, and vengeance is just one. I don't know, but yeah. Damn. So it was a good pick. Sorry, Phil, number 5.
Okay, right. I've gone with a comedic hill.
Yes.
Okay. I thought it would just, that's pretty much...
Line things up a bit.
Yeah. And this is a little bit controversial, I'm not going to lie, considering what's been going on the planet for the last couple of years in the mainstream. But I thought I'd just mention this, and I think you would all agree with me.
Go for it.
But played by Kevin Spacey in a film called... Yes, in a film called Horrible Bosses.
Yes!
And he is the main manager of the company, Dave Harkin.
He's amazing.
Yeah. And the story plot is basically, I think, what's the character? I can't remember the character's name, but the guy who's in it.
Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman He's looking to go for promotion at his company. He's worked there X amount of years. He's almost like self-entitled to it, but in a good sense because he has done the work. Dave Harkin, his boss, sort of makes it seem that he's always sort of like very hard on him, offers him a drink in the morning and then accuses him of being an alcoholic. Says that he was late and almost brings up the CCTV footage to show him how late he was, like 30 seconds or something like that. Yeah. And then when the position opens, David Harkin takes it for himself and just extends his office to have 2 spaces. So he obviously knocks down what was
doing
originally
double the work or something.
Yeah, and it's just, I like that kind of like, what you would call it, sociopath. Yeah, where they just have no empathy for the other individual. And obviously that's the plot of the film, that Jason Bateman just wants to get his revenge on this guy because solely he has decided that his life is just not worth living. So everything that he does in this film, if you haven't seen it, I would strongly suggest to watch it. Yeah. If you're not a Kevin Spacey fan, this will make you hate him even more. So.
That's true. He is. Yeah, he's a fucking badass in that film. Colin Farrell's actually pretty good in that as well. But as a more of a heel, definitely Spacey. But some of the stuff he comes up with is brilliant. It's a good choice, man. Damn good choice.
I would also add on another Spacey one, which is very similar to our boss. It's Swimming with Sharks.
Yes.
You ever see that one?
Yes, it's one of my favourite Spacey films.
Yeah, because isn't that meant to be a relative of the whole boss's character?
Is it really?
Supposedly, it's like a spiritual character off that.
I didn't know that.
Because they're both near the same. But they're both
like Brian
evil
O'Halloran
bosses.
in the Clerks universe, just playing cousins of each other.
Could be that.
Yeah, good choice, man.
Nice.
So my number 4, bit of a corny one, but it's a villain that I've loved as a kid and still love to this day, and that's Skeletor from Masters of the Universe. I freaking love this dude.
Frank
Langella as Skeletor is one of the best ones ever for me. He's not only is the look and the makeup and the stuff, but some of the lines he comes up with in that are just like, this dude just wants to be this character. There are times where it's comical and it's not. Like there's parts where He-Man says to him, like, let her go, and he actually says he's there. He thinks about it. He goes, I don't think so. No, just like a badass villain you would. It's just like, why should I? I'm above you, motherfucker. So, but no, some of the stuff he comes up with, and also, I think there was rumors he was going to come back as Skeletor. They were going to do another one. And unfortunately, they never did it. But just, I don't know. I think it's just one of those things for me that still holds up today. I look back at it, and there are parts where, yes, it's crap and corny, but there are lines where he's like, I'm the Alpha and Omega, and I will be reborn. And where he looks at the camera is to say, yeah, I'm the villain. I'm the bad guy in this. No one else is taking this away from me. And that's what I love about him. It's just, just has to be in my top 5. It's probably the corniest out of my picks, but
everyone's
heart.
Everyone's got their childhood heroes, or in your case, the childhood villain.
Exactly,
Someone being able to revel in that villainy.
Do you remember when we were kids? I'm sure you remember this. BBC would always play Star Wars at Christmas.
Yes,
and they would always play Master of the Universe. So obviously during that time, Darth Vader and Skeletor were almost like the local heels that you would obviously watch. And that's absolutely. For me, I agree with you on that. Like his prosthetics as well, the makeup was just so like. What's the word? Like, it just has such a kind of evil presence about it. As a child, you're young and impressionable, and that just hangs with you, doesn't it? Like,
it's just very some of his attitude to it. Like, people are like, I'm going to beat you at some point, and he's like, will you now? I just love it. He just so got into that character, and he was probably the best one out of the whole movie. I mean, obviously, Dolph Lundgren is not exactly a good actor compared to Frank Langella, but I still find it hard to believe that it's Frank under that mask. It's just
it's good makeup.
It's very good. So that's got to be my number 4. What's your number 4, sir?
So the next category of villains I had to pick. So this is the category of based or an adapted character based off either a book or comic book. So this was really tough. I was
so much to choose from.
Too much. So it was either book or comic book. So I'm an avid. I wouldn't say I'm an avid book reader. I only read Murakami books. No books based on films. So my criteria on that isn't as knowledgeable. But I have read a few DC comics and even Marvel comics. So, and obviously one of them is I have one villain that I'm really drawn to. So I had to pick between a book villain, comic villain. So because of what I've just said, I'd have to go for the comic book villain. Yeah. It's going to be pretty obvious. But the book villain adapted one I was going to go for was Patrick Bateman in American Psycho.
Nice. Oh, good.
Which
yeah.
I was like, yeah, he is good. But then
again, peak sociopath.
Yeah, exactly. And he's good. And because obviously from the book, he's a much more serious character. But I love how Christian Bale just decided to make him more comical, and he based his performance on Tom Cruise in interviews. Which I think is fantastic. So,
I didn't know that.
So he's almost ribbing Tom Cruise in this film.
He kind of had the Tom Cruise 80s hair, dude.
There's a scene.
I can really see it.
There is a scene where he's taking a piss in the toilet, and you see a reflection in the picture in front of him. You see like a window reflection of him, and he looks exactly like Tom Cruise. Watch that scene.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see.
Go back and watch that.
That is kind of like the turning point to say, yeah, I'm being Tom Cruise. That's kind of the first time you see him, I think. Oh no, it's when he first starts narrating.
Okay.
That's when you see it.
Yeah.
That's your backup choice.
That was, yeah,
so you
almost original choice.
So you went with Mr. Freeze from...
Yeah, you got it.
Arnie Schwarzenegger.
So it was between two Jokers. It was either Heath Ledger or Joaquin Phoenix. So then I had to juggle those two, because both are good, but both for different reasons. So I had to go with, even though it's recent, I'm going with the Joaquin Phoenix one.
Okay.
Purely because... it's an outstanding film. I believe it will stand the test of time. Not to say Dark Knight wouldn't, but this one I think is one that you can study and watch over, and it will last. His performance is undeniably his greatest performance in any film that he's done. The Master being close second, because I think it's amazing in that film.
The Master was great, yeah.
Incredible movie. But yeah, and this is, I mean, as a lot of people can view it in different ways. There's one way where you kind of emphasize... For him, I see it as not really emphasizing a man that becomes evil. I see it as an understanding of a man that becomes evil, why he is evil. And you can argue that he's not a villain till the very end, which is kind of true. But it's that origin story. It's that character study of one man becoming that, and you get the understanding. And that's pretty much all you need. And I thought, and his performance is knockout. There's no denying it. And it's a great movie. It's paced well, it's edited well. And yeah,
I'm just so glad it's not the original dysfunctional family storyline that made him do that. I was so fucking grateful they didn't do that.
That's what I also like. They didn't like base it on an actual comic. They adapted it, used an idea of it, but made it their own. They didn't copy or paste with any other one. They just used the character and made it its own, gave it its own birth. And it was a true original origin story of a villain, and I appreciate that. So for that reason, that's why number 4 from adapted villains.
Very good. Very nice, man.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Joaquin Phoenix, of course, also Commodus in Gladiator was
good call.
A strong choice for.
Is that your pick?
No, no. But he's on my.
I just thought you were like, holy shit, 2 wackies in one.
He's on my collection of
kind
of honourable mentions, as it were. We didn't specifically do honourable mentions, but
right, swing away, Meryl.
As you mentioned book adaptations, I want to briefly mention, I was talking to Ant before we started recording, I want to mention as a character, but I'm not going to have it as a pick, but Javert in Les Miserables.
Nice.
For me, such a good villain. Well, that's the thing. I couldn't put it on the list because I'm not a massive fan of the Russell Crowe performance in the 2012 movie.
So from the play you're talking about?
Well, I've seen the musical in London 3 times. I've also seen other staged versions of it, which are, let's just say it, they're better performances. That's not to say that Russell's was not great, but
it was comical.
It was. I think he gave it different flavour. That I preferred the musical theatre version of it. But again, it's got depth in there, and there's that interesting thing with diverging paths of, because you see him to start with as the utter dickhead, overbearing prison guard, constantly hunting down a man for no real reason.
Yeah.
And then the more the story's explored, you find out that in actual fact he himself came from a low position, was born in a prison and so on. So you kind of see the different angle on it at that point, where he's not just single-mindedly a douchebag for no reason. He's got a very particular outlook on it.
Isn't it? Yeah.
All that being said, because it was, I've tried to, as much as I've got an adaptation on here, further up my list, I didn't want to particularly pull from other sources. I wanted movie villains from movies, if you will.
Yeah.
So my actual number 4, talking around in circles for a couple of minutes.
That's right. It's an honourable mention, so go for it.
The legendary Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Oh, not Die Hard.
I was going to say, I thought Hans was coming in there.
The swerve.
Doesn't King John get an honourable mention too? Because he's obviously, his council, isn't it? King John, Sheriff of Rottingham.
Is he the head honcho?
He's dyslexic as well, isn't he? The Sheriff of Rottingham.
I don't know, Phil.
Is this from Prince of Thieves?
I'm talking Men in Tights, right?
So you're saying Rottingham, and I definitely said
Nottingham,
yeah. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the classic.
Good move.
I mean, he's almost a comic book level of villainous character, isn't he? He's just
They're both funny.
Yeah, he's outrageous. He's over the top. He's again almost fixated on the downfall of this one person, regardless of whatever the hell else is happening with the kingdom he's supposed to be looking after. And as I say, this is a legendary Alan Rickman.
This is the thing, because he's so serious at the beginning. Like when he kills Robin's dad, spoiler alert, by the way. He's got like the white cloak on. He's got the mask and stuff. He's like, oh shit, he's going to be quite. And then it goes very comical towards midway ending, and then it still has like the real events of being a bad guy, but throws in that comical touch to it.
Yeah, there's kind of elements of high fantasy and magic that are added kind of unexpectedly from I mean, it's been a long while since I watched this movie, to be honest, but I couldn't not have him on there.
No.
As you mentioned, there's a choice of two Alan Rickmans, really, isn't there?
Well, yeah, hold on the other one.
I went for this one.
I've been married.
So yeah, I really enjoyed.
Loxley, I'm gonna cut your heart out with a spoon.
There we go, folks. How can you not have?
There you go.
No blades, no bows. Leave your weapons here.
Unharp someone with a spoon as a top villain.
Oh, there's always that one scene where Robin covers himself in shit to get through the crowd, and he bumps into a guard, and this guard's so bad. He's like, "Also, let me through." And he goes, "Oh my god, you stink!" It just throws him aside. Wow. He's more heel than that. Phil, you're number 4, sir.
Okay, right. This one, bear with me on this, because if you've seen the film, you would understand. The film is Man on the Moon with Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, yeah.
And as much as I love Andy Kaufman in real life and what he did for comedy, I would have to go for Tony Clifton.
Yes.
The character that he portrays in the comedy clubs, which is obviously particularly antagonistic to his audience. This is what you would call a counter personality to Andy Kaufman, as the corporations and networks are looking to get Andy Kaufman on TV. Andy Kaufman splits his personality and comes up with two almost bipolar people, one being a audience, rebellious, antagonistic individual who picks on individuals in the audience and spills their drinks on them and smokes cigarettes and cigars in their face and turns up at the taxi film lot or TV set and starts rubbing up all the cast members. For me, it's again with the prosthetics that Skeletor has. It's the same. You don't realise it's Jim Carrey. It also could be his writer, is it? Who's played by Paul Giamatti.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Where they play.
Yeah.
So Jim can be in Andy can be in 2 different places at once, which obviously allows him to get away with more. And this is the point of much like the Mandalorian in Iron Man. If you portray a character which isn't yourself, you can almost play around with the laws of morality. So, for example, Tony Clifton can take all the heat he wants. He can interrupt sets. He can make people cry in the audience and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it's a very low villain. He's not particularly part of the main storyline, but he's always just been a favourite for me, to be honest. And just to see Jim Carrey play something quite opposite to his normal kind of, histrionic, eccentric self, it was just quite clearly entertaining to me, and I just carry that with me today.
Yeah, nice.
Wasn't Jim Carrey when he was doing Man on the Moon? He was in that mindset, so he was Andy for how many months?
Yeah, he method acted. So he wanted everyone on cast to call him Andy. He even wanted to reinstigate the feud with Jerry the King Lawler.
Yes,
that Andy Kaufman had. So he would throw drinks at him on set, and he would spit at him, and then he would just not return his calls. And then they got into if you've seen the famous David Letterman show thing.
That's when they were on it, wasn't it?
Where basically the idea was for them to finish it on set, like Jerry the King Lawler and Andy Kaufman. But they had a phone call prior to that where they said, look, we're going to have to keep this going because we're not happy with the networks telling us that they want to get us handshaking. So obviously that's where the slap comes from, Andy Kaufman calling him all the names under the sun. And obviously back then they used the, what do you call it, like the dump bar when someone swears on the air, but it was like a cuckoo sound. So obviously if you watch the original footage back, you'll see what I mean.
I got you. Okay.
Jim Carrey, Man on the Moon, Tony Clifton, that is just certified fourth for
That's
me.
interesting, man.
Nice.
Interesting
Good
pick.
call. Yeah.
Number 3. So mine is he's kind of an interesting villain because there's so much about him you still don't know, but he is played by the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, nice.
And that is Owen Davian from Mission Impossible 3.
Nice, good call.
Oh,
He is just, oh my God, it's just the opening scene alone is like, I don't have a care in the world. This is going to happen. You know, you are, you know, I want what I want. Give it to me now.
Yeah.
And just has no reasoning behind it at all. Like,
What's that quote he says? It's like, whoever you are, wherever you are, I'm going to find you. I'm just going to kill you.
yeah.
He's just being blunt and honest.
Absolutely, just being straightforward about it.
Yeah.
And like, even the opening is like he's Tom and his wife are hostages at the same point, but he's got the gun to the wife's head and he's just literally counting down. Tom's like, please don't, and he's just constantly going. There is no reasoning behind him. Tell him what he wants, why he does it. But there's more to the thing I love about it is that I think, what's it called? The rabbit's foot he's after?
Yeah.
We still don't know to this day what that is.
No.
Throughout the whole film, you can assume it's like a deadly virus or it's weapon of mass destruction or something like that.
It's like the Pulp Fiction briefcase.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. And then
A MacGuffin.
we kind of find out who he's working for at the end, but it's still not like it's like if he's working for an organisation or something like that. That's what I love about it. The only downside to it, why he isn't higher on the list, is because he has a really bad death scene in this.
Oh, the
And which is like the only thing I go to. But some of the situations he puts Tom Cruise's character in that movie, like there's one point where he actually kills him and his wife tries to revive him at one point.
Yeah.
Because it's like an implant in his head or something, or just some of that stuff is like I could never ever go through that. I could never do it myself. But like I said, some of the lines he has in that are just like
his facial expressions as well.
Yeah, it's like there is no care in the world. I am the bad guy.
He's inhumane.
Yeah. And
how much of it do you think comes down to that actor particularly? Because my next pick, I think, could only have really achieved the same if it was the actor.
This is the thing, because I don't know if anyone would obviously have the same lines, but bring them out as Philip Seymour Hoffman did.
Yeah, because I wrote down, I've got 4 names that I've picked as, like, I think of I can see the actor more as much as the character, like they're almost like a villainous actor.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is another one of those types, I think. Not to say that he was a villain in real life, obviously, but he has that facility to play that level of character.
I kind of feel bad that they killed him off, though, because in 5 and 6, is it Paul Harris?
I think so.
Chris Harris? He's a bad guy in that, and they keep him in for the 2 movies. I would have liked it to Owen Davian still be in those ones, and because I think there's a part in the movie where he's on a bridge and they trying to break him out of a jail van or something, and they get like a whole fucking SWAT team and a drone and all of that. It's like, how important is this dude? But we never know, and I love the mystery to that character as well.
He's got connections.
Absolutely, and it's just like, damn, I wish they carried it on, and it's a shame they didn't. But he has to be he's got to be in the top 5.
That's
very underrated. Very underrated.
Yeah, underrated, definitely, for sure. Yeah.
Number 3, sir.
All right. So the category for this one was scene stealers. Now this can be
which you mentioned earlier.
I love this methodology, man.
So it's a character that has less screen time than the protagonist, but steals the entire movie and completely owns the show.
Mm-hmm.
This was absolutely difficult for me. There's not even between 2 like the last 2.
Are we going to get a before and like what you didn't pick and what you're going to pick?
I'm almost still on the fence almost, because there's so many to pick. There's my biasness, and then there's just like, is that the best one? So there's so many scene stealers. I mean, there's a handful I can mention. There's like Ernie Kraken from Bill Murray and Kingpin. I mean,
Ernie McCracken, yes.
Purely because I'm a Bill Murray fan, but by biasness, I would pick him.
Yeah, he's a damn good villain.
And it's like, do I just want to put a Bill Murray character in mind, just for the sake of
Stuck
Bill
in there
Murray.
again.
But no, he's as a villain.
No, he is good.
He gets away with everything in that
wins as
movie.
well.
He is brilliant.
He is a great villain. That's probably his most dastardly villain role that he's done. But I do prefer his villainy in Scrooge. But he does turn nice at the end, so therefore I can put that one in. God, there's just so many. But I had to go with one that I thought was like every time I see it, I'm smiling and laughing at this guy, and it's all about owning the screen, owning the room. And like taking away everything from the performances from the leads in the film. The leads did play it well, but for me in this movie, he stole the show, and that is Norman Stansfield from Leon.
Nice,
Gary
Oldman.
Yeah,
He was one of the four I was just thinking about. As
was he?
you think of
think
of Gary Oldman, you think maniac bad guy.
so he's good. It was also, I mean, when it comes to Gary Oldman, there was also True Romance. I love him in True Romance. He's got the smallest screen time, and again, he kind of owns that film more.
Was that the one you weren't going to pick?
Again, it was like that one as well. But
Yeah.
then you've got the
Christopher
Christopher Walken in True Romance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you got two really good like small time screen roles, but they both own the film for me.
Yeah.
But Gary Oldman in Leon is just so over the top, so charismatic, and incredibly intimidating, and
Absolutely.
so fearful, unpredictable, and just a great villain. And he totally steals that film. Not to take away performances from Jean Reno and Natalie Portman; they were both obviously great, but you give it to Gary Oldman, he just knocked it out of the park.
I think he's literally in like 3 scenes in that movie.
He's like 18 minutes screen time.
Is that it? Is that
He's
what
got
it is?
the smallest. I was saying, he's got such a small screen time, but
Hugely impactful.
every scene he's in creates tension. The weight of that film is all on him, and he for me is the scene stealer, and that's why he's number 1. Number 4, 3.
Number
Sorry,
4. 3. Number 3.
lost my number.
Hey, what?
How many? He's got some of the best lines in that film as well. Even though
absolutely.
it was like, he's Beethoven and whatnot.
Mate, no one says everyone like he does.
Yes.
It is intense.
It is so good.
Yeah, and then the whole putting a pill in his mouth, jerking his neck, cracking it like he's cracking his own neck. Just everything about he's such a eccentrically weird and just out of abnormal sort of like characteristics that you don't see often in screens. It's very unique.
It's very weird how Gary Oldman, his career was brought up being a bad guy.
He's good.
And now recently, he's only been doing good guy roles since recently, isn't he?
It's a good turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's gotten older now, so I guess
I was going to say it'd be an age thing. I think
Yeah.
where he had that.
Possibly.
Not to say that-
He'd be a good Bond villain, though, if you
Yeah.
think about
He
it.
would, yeah. But Phil, you mentioned Fifth Element again. It's more of a cartoony character, but still that kind of high level, high intensity,
Friggin'
ruthless.
Especially a guy of such small stature as well. Like mentioning in Leon, like how big is
Jima is taller.
and
lot
he's
taller.
it just if someone can use their mind to operate in that way,
Yeah, definitely. His mind is more powerful than his physicality. Yeah, and that is scary.
It's back to you saying how intimidating he was. Like, I think there's a part where
when he's sniffing the guy.
That's it, and he says like he's a human lie detector or something.
Yeah.
That there alone is just.
And he's just sniffing him. It's just like he's alright. But he's playing games and ruthless, killing that family. You know? The wife in the bathtub, the teenage girl.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus, ruthless.
Absolutely,
Yeah, he's
ruthless.
terrifying.
I need to rewatch Leon.
Leon's a great film.
Such a classic.
Cool.
But yeah,
now.
sorry,
I'm
number
gonna,
3, sir.
I'm going to continue. We've had Philip Seymour Hoffman, Gary Oldman, and now one of my other top level, the actor makes the role, Daniel Day-Lewis, as Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood.
That's my number 1.
Oh,
Is
no
it
way!
really?
someone had to have it.
When you said Daniel Day-Lewis, I thought you were going to say Bill Butcher
From Gangs of
from
New York.
Gangs of New York. He was in my top 10, not my top 5.
Tim's turning heel now. Like,
Tim's gone heel.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, again, Gangs of New York, he becomes his character, and he's well known as becoming like the super method actor, isn't he? Tim.
No, you take it.
Well, no, because
I'm turning heel.
clearly-
I'm becoming the villain.
Clearly, you have more to add to this. If he's my number 3 is your number 1, dude. So
Yeah, I want to say.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
as an overview, if you're not familiar with the character, he's a prospecting oil guy in late 1800s, or is it early 1900s?
1918.
1918. Okay. And the beginning of that film is one of the things that always sticks in my mind. Is nothing but the nature of the the actual sound. There's no dialogue, there's no
It's
music.
weird. I never really picked him as a bad guy, to be honest. He was just...
He becomes a bad guy. It's a character study of a man overcome with greed and how it can destroy life. But then you've got the whole prospect of Paul Dano's character. It's about faith and oil and money, pretty much. It's all about the power of greed and how they're all consumed by it, and it takes away their humanity. And it's a complete... For me, it's the best characterized villain movie of all time.
Yeah,
there's no denying that.
It starts off as an honest guy. He's out there to make a living. He does well. Again, coming back to that idea of...
He starts off on his own, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's a rag to riches story almost.
Yes.
He's just a man that just wants to get rich and get there. And then...
and he does it with utter disregard for everyone and everything towards the end, including his own family, his previous own morals. It's all just thrown away with this singular notion of... It's not even necessarily about bettering himself. It's doing better than everyone else. He does it almost vindictively at that point, which is why it becomes a villain piece for me.
Yeah, that's what...
It's not just trying to benefit himself. And I also, in a similar vein, thought of The Founder with Michael Keaton, the McDonald's story.
Yes.
Again, it starts off as a guy wanting to do better. Does better, gets better again. And then you go, oh, hang on. He's no longer just getting better. He's purposefully trying to do down others. He's trying to make the rest of his competition suffer. Which is the same in There Will Be Blood, is that it's not just, I've got a better oil well than you. It's, I've got a better oil well than you because I fucked you over.
Yeah. Like the real world. It's all competition at the end of the day, isn't it? It's just...
But that portrayal and that strength of character, some of the outtakes of it are terrifying. I don't think I could work with Daniel Day-Lewis.
only if he plays President Lincoln, maybe.
Oh, it's worst. I hate that one.
And obviously, I always thought Bill the Butcher was more of a villainesque than There Will Be Blood. It's quite interesting to...
Whoopsie daisy.
Well, it's almost like the Joker character I mentioned earlier.
No, exactly, I just never really thought of it.
But no, he is. It's because he's the subject, he's the protagonist, he's the main choice of the movie, he's the origin story.
Yeah, having him as the lead character.
He is the
villain.
Yeah. So, Phil, number 3.
Okay, I don't think my number 3 is as good as Tim's number 1 or your number 3, but I'm going with Salim Abu Aziz from True Lies, played by the actor Art Malik. This sticks out in my mind only just because I think it's solely one of the biggest comeuppance that a villain can get at the end of a film, being strapped to a missile and being planted headfirst into a building. It's just, as you see the film, he's got big eyebrows and piercing eyes, and obviously he's the leader of a terrorist organisation. Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is working with the Secret Service, and as you can tell, the film culminates to a point where a F-16 fighter jet and a missile is
typical
deployed.
James Cameron.
As much as I'm not the biggest James Cameron fan, I appreciate this because as I was growing up, it just stuck out in my mind that I was obviously maturing in the mind, and this was one of the characters that I would, love to hate.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. And like I say, the end scene for me is comical and
it's entertaining, man. It's just it's so silly. It's entertaining.
Yeah, I'm not saying the actor's like the greatest in the world compared to, like, say, Daniel Day-Lewis, but for me, he shouts, he points guns at people, he slaps women, he steals nuclear missiles.
Everything that Phil's looking for in
there's enough traits there to say he's a particularly nasty bastard. That's my number 3.
That's a good third one.
One turn of the key. The world will end instantly. What key? That key.
We'll take the key.
That's a damn good choice. Good choice. So my number 2 is...
if I may, while we're on James Cameron very briefly, unless this is also going to spoil someone else's choice.
No, not mine. I don't have any James Camerons in
The
mine.
Abyss.
Well, I didn't even realise this was the character's name. I just think of it as Stephen Lang in Avatar being a badass. Colonel Miles Quaritch.
That's what I was going to say, but because it's a very small, minor thing, I was like, it's good for Stephen Lang. But I was like, I just don't think I've got enough Yeah, it's a good addition for the James Cameron.
Yeah, it's a nice little shout out of just going, this guy's, again, ruthless, badass, doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, Colonel Miles Quaritch.
Yeah. And they go there with a mission. They get told, no, this is inhabited. We need to study. We need to act accordingly. And he goes, fuck that. I'm mining this place. I'm blowing up their life. I'm literally destroying their home. I don't care. Like, cool.
Yeah. Man of money.
Yeah.
But isn't it something to do with didn't he get attacked by like a Navi or something, and that's why he's got that scar? So is it like a back to Phil saying, is it a vengeance thing?
The revengeance,
revengeance.
Definitely drives
Creed's
him. But
part 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the difference. Then revenge would be doing the same back to one of them. Vengeance is, I'm going to blow up your home.
Yeah, I'm going
to destroy.
I'm going to create genocide and destroy you all.
And that makes that's the villain stuff, isn't it? Essentially, of going, I was robbed, I'm going to rob someone back.
Well, he's getting corporately paid as well, much like who's the guy above him? Who's
Giovanni Ribisi's
character. He's it's all for corporate gain, isn't it? They have no empathy towards this indigenous species, so they're going to
just like real life. No one gets.
Yeah,
it's all about money. But so my number 2 was mentioned but wasn't an actual pick, and it's Nurse Ratched.
Nice.
Okay.
So good call.
Nurse Ratched is the be all end all for me. The most amazing woman villain there is. I mean, like Tim said, it was his favourite for years. The thing is, I'm kind of opposite. I never watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as my teens kid, whatever sort of thing. I got into it. I think you got me into it, actually.
Really?
You told me, but I think we watched it once.
Oh, wow.
Because you kept going on about it, and we watched it. and I was just like, I don't use the word hate. To me, hate is a very strong word, but I hate Nurse Ratched.
She does the job.
She does the job. I can't remember the lady who plays her, but she does an amazing job as this character.
Louise Fletcher.
Yeah, she just gives you that. There's a part of the end of the movie where Jack Nicholson goes to strangle her and nearly gets her and nearly kills her, and you're like, yes, do it, and then
you do Christopher Lloyd,
and that's the thing, exactly. And the thing is, again, she's one of those characters that gets away with it, does essentially she lobotomizes Jack Nicholson in the end, so she gets her vengeance back for nearly killing him. She's a reason a lot of other stuff happens, like why people are kicking off in the asylum.
She turns the baseball off.
Yeah. Yes, turns the baseball off, doesn't give people the cigarettes.
An absolute control freak.
Absolutely.
With only her own thoughts and intentions on others, never the care of others. But using that staple of like, oh, I care, but using that as a weapon. And it makes them maniacal.
Yeah, absolutely. And she uses that for killing off Brad Dourif's character as well.
Yeah, going to tell his mother.
Yes, that she's gonna grass him up, and he can't bring himself to that, so he tops himself, doesn't he? And it's just like, wow, that is some clever stuff.
Yeah,
vicious. So
the directors, when they were doing a casting call for that, they put up an advert in the local paper, and they said, "Do you scare children? Do people walk?" No,
honestly, are you serious?
I'm serious. Do people walk across to the other side of the street to avoid you? If so, then please come along to our casting for people within the mental asylum, because they obviously wanted people to look somewhat whatever that word is. Just
Jesus.
Wow.
But no, she obviously nailed it and got the job.
Yeah, totally.
But no, if she was your pick, Tim, I would have said it with you, but because it wasn't an actual pick, I thought I'd save it. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
But so she's the be-all, end-all bitch.
Yeah.
Tim, number 2, sir.
So the number 2 category was my favourite villain from one of my favourite directors. Now, I have 5 favourite directors. And I obviously, like this list, it was hard to put my top 5 directors in order because I like all 5 of them. So for each director, I had to pick which one from my favourite directors is the best villain. Now, I had to go with the director of David Lynch on this one.
Nice.
I was going to say, do you want to give us the 5 directors? I knew Lynch was going to be one.
No, I'm going to save that for another podcast probably.
Right.
But this is for this one. So David Lynch. Now his villains, unlike my other 4 previous one, all of his villains are not as likable or as humorous almost, but they are absolutely terrifying. All his villains are despicable and maniacal and absolutely just a villain. This almost could have been number 1, but obviously my number 1 was that one purely because I think it's the best movie of all time.
Yep.
And it's the best villain of all time. So it was between 2 characters from the David Lynch film. Well, actually 3. So there's Mystery Man from Lost Highway.
Yeah,
Doesn't do much, but his on-screen presence
absolutely
is terrifying. The scene when he meets Bill Pullman in the party,
the telephone scene.
Telephone call.
Yeah,
and there's no sound. It's just his voice speaking, and it's his face, the no eyebrows, the makeup underneath, the pale face, the hair slick. It just looks insane and inhuman almost.
Absolutely.
Like an entity of evil.
I don't think I've ever got around to watching it.
I think that was the first Lynch film I ever saw, was Lost Highway, yeah.
Mine was Eraserhead. I'm so happy it was Eraserhead.
Yeah.
What's the one with my favourite line again?
Well, we'll come to that.
We'll come to that.
The other 2 was Bobby Peru from Wild at Heart by William Dafoe, who is,
great actor.
he's got the most ugliest teeth I've ever seen in a TV film.
Wait.
And because he wears fake. No, he wears fake teeth in this one. I'm not judging his actual teeth. Okay. In this film, he has more gums than teeth as makeup, and he has this very thin paint mustache, and but he's so unlikable to the fact that he's he's obviously an abusive person to women. He only cares about himself. He pisses where he wants, does what he wants. He always dresses in black, all in leather. He looks intimidating. So he was another one. But the one I went for, which has to be one of Lynch's greatest creations of a villain of all time, absolutely terrifying, Frank Booth from Blue Velvet.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
Fucking got a devastating here.
That's Dennis Hopper, is it?
Dennis Hopper, man. And I believe when it came to casting, David Lynch wanted to cast someone else. Dennis Hopper really wanted this role.
Wow.
And he ended up, he tried to get hold of him through his agents, couldn't get through to him. He just kept calling. David Lynch finally took the call. And he was adamant, saying, I need to do this part. I have to do this. Lynch is well, give me a good reason why. He goes, because I am Frank Booth.
Wow.
And I was like, damn. So
that's hardcore, man.
When someone says that, and then Lynch then said, I don't know if I should be impressed or scared, but you're in. Because that's a good answer. So anyway, so Frank Booth, what is there to say to the point when he is just, there is nothing that is non-fearful. You are scared of every single scene that he is in, every minute. The most unpredictable, unfazable character. There's moments when you think he's being nice. You know he's not.
Yeah.
You clearly know he's not. When he's pretending to be nice, something's going to happen. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
You know it's from the start.
For it.
From the start. This guy
is
very terrifying. And you are on edge every time he's on scene. And there's one scene which has
go on, you got
every time it pops me. It is the most hilarious.
So one.
This is Blue Velvet. So what's his name from Twin Peaks? Oh my god, I forgot his name.
Carl McLaughlin.
What?
Carl McLaughlin.
Carl McLaughlin. Yeah. So he's trying to escape the room before Frank Booth comes, because Frank Booth doesn't want to see that his girl is with another man. And they're in the same room, so he has to leave.
Isabella Rossellini.
So, yeah. So he says, oh, he's going to come, you better leave quick. And as soon as he opens the door, he's there in the distance, and he goes, hey! He walks up to him, slowly, stops, keeps looking at him angrily, and just says, who is this fuck? I was like, that's how you introduce yourself to someone. Just be absolutely intimidating. He is just owning that room, showing everyone that I don't really give a fuck what your name is. I want to know who the fuck you are, because now you know who the fuck I am. So he is terrifying. And let's not forget the whole breathing in whatever he's breathing in.
It's like a oxygen mask, isn't it?
And he's obviously just getting high on that. And he's getting pissed, he's getting drunk, and he's getting angry for moments that don't really matter. And it's terrifying. He is absolutely terrifying. And that's why he's my number 2 pick. So my number 1 was obviously from the category of favourite. There's 2 categories: favourite actor and movie.
So what would have been your other choice? Not Daniel Plainview, or are you going to go tell him to come around?
It was always Daniel Plainview.
Oh, you didn't have a second one?
No.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
He's 2 categories in one. It's my favourite film of all time, and it's about a villain. So that's why it's
about a villain starting off as a
yeah. That's my number 1 and
choice.
2. Don't be a good neighbour. I'll send you a letter straight from my heart, fucker. Do you know what a love letter is? It's a bullet from a fucking gun, fucker.
Such a great line. I love that.
Yeah, he's quite Frank Booth, man.
Frank Booth
Terrifying. One of my most scariest ones.
Sorry, number 2.
Yeah, we have mentioned this man earlier. He's in that category of, I wasn't sure whether to put it in because it's from a comic book source rather than purely a movie thing. So I was toying with the idea of putting in alternates, such like potentially Darth Vader. You can't really go wrong with Darth Vader, or potentially Palpatine is more the villain in later days.
There, yeah.
But I have gone, rather than Joaquin's version, I've gone with Heath Ledger's version of Joker.
Okay, nice.
It was such a again, it's the standout performance of the character as much as it's the character itself, I think. What he brought to that role. You know, when you first suggested this as a topic for a podcast, top movie villains, like, how can you not have at least a version of the Joker in there?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Of course,
He's passed through multiple generations at this point as one of the standout bad guys. He's got that chaotic bent. He's a disregard for society. He thinks, though, that what he has as a moral guide, as broken as most of us would say it is, he's working towards a certain kind of outcome. He's looking to shape the world in his thought process. That thought process just happens to appear utterly chaotic and maniacal compared to regular society. And in doing so, he's just, he doesn't break from his vision. He is murderous. He's disruptive. He's destructive. He actively tries to corrupt others. Just so many, if you had a tick box of as many villainous traits as you could think of, there's very few that he would leave out, I think.
I mean, this is the interesting thing about, I've always thought of Joker, because Joker is basically the opposite of what Batman is. Batman's like this big brute muscle force, whereas Joker is just this scrawny guy that, like you said, that deals with people's minds and intimidates and
mind over matter.
Yes, and they never have a fight scene. Like if they do in a movie, it's over very quickly because it's not.
Yeah, it's a battle.
Joker's not that villain to do that.
That would be the Bane, which again is on the list of kind of, but not really going to. We kind of feel like that's almost a separate list of almost like a monsters and comic book characters rather than specific movie villains. I think Joker's got that edge where it is because it's so psychological. As you say, he's not a bad guy who's going to do the fighting himself. He's going to try and fuck you up beforehand and then escape and come back at you with a totally wacky approach again, something just you're never going to imagine.
Well, his whole mission is chaos. That's all he wants. It's not about, it's like you said, it's not about money. It's not about any of that. That's what makes a terrifying villain. It's not even that there's a real reason for it. Why does he want chaos? Does anyone know?
There isn't.
He just wants
chaos. We never have a reason for it. That's the mystery of the characters. That's why everyone likes
that's what makes him great.
Joker, isn't it? Yeah.
I just want to add as well, if you look at the concept, the whole Joker imagery, obviously the Joker terminology comes from a pack of cards.
Yes.
And any time you play with a pack of 52 and you lose one of those 52, so you get 2 Jokers in a pack, remember?
That's right.
The Joker can represent any card within the deck.
True.
So, for example, Heath Ledger or Joaquin Phoenix, they can portray any stance within a political game they want to, because they are not tied down to a archetypal role.
Yeah,
nice.
They can represent the ace, i.e., what Joker does in the end of. Do you know what I mean? So it's very like, I always look at the kind of breakdown of the psychology of things. Someone might want to argue that with me.
No, that's a good.
No.
That's good.
Fair enough. I always try and look at where these codes and concepts come from for people to be able to use an image to then portray the vessel of truth or anti-truth or whatever you want to call it as. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good analysation of it. So yeah, 100%.
And I never really thought of it as that, to be honest.
That's good.
Because when you just put the Jokers aside, that's it. You don't really, you never ever use them.
They're disposable to a point when you need them, and that's what he is. He's fringe society, isn't he? Because he's obviously downtrodden. Batman is the one who's got the money, the wealth, the butlers, the cars, the police force somewhat behind him, but not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Joker is completely fringe. So portraying that character, I think Joaquin Phoenix knew that. Heath Ledger knew that.
Yeah.
And as well, their ages as well. I think the actor's age plays into that a lot because conceptually, mentally, they might have been at the same point where they're working out their own personal identity. Unfortunately, due to Heath Ledger's passing, we don't know what happened.
There was meant to be another one, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was supposed to be a continuation.
Yeah. Joaquin was in his 50s when he did Joker?
Yeah, I think it's 50, yeah.
But I think they understand it. You couldn't have a young actor. I think when they even with Jared Leto. Was it Jared Leto who played it?
Jared Leto did the Suicide Squad version, yeah.
Yeah, well, they've given it to someone who obviously has had a previous understanding of playing particular roles within films.
He's been eccentric characters like in Panic Room and stuff.
Yeah.
And Fight Club. But it was an interesting pick. He was more of a, what do you call it, edgy, I guess, trying to appease to a top shop market, whatever we call it. What was it? Hot Topic.
Hot Topic market, yeah.
Yeah, Hot Topic, yeah.
It was basically the Hot Topic Joker, which was a bad move. It was. He's the worst one. We'll forget about him.
I'll never forget that when they did announce Heath was playing the Joker.
Well, everyone had doubts.
Everyone had doubts. Let's face it.
It's like the guy from 10 Things I Hate About You.
Exactly. Yeah.
Knight's
Tale. Whatnot. Yeah.
And then the trailer came. I was like,
the pretty boy blonde. Wasn't
and
he?
I remember they put the picture where he's right up to the camera and he's you just see the scars and like you thought to yourself, what is that?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's because we all had the expectations of because we all have the comic book Joker and the Jack Nicholson Joker. Those are the ones that stick with us. So you expect the same one again. Because it went in a different direction, was the absolute smartest move. But it did give us doubts. I mean, we're all ashamed of it. But then when it came out, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, he's a scene stealer. I mean, that film is more Joker than Batman. Even though Batman's in it the most, it is his story. But Joker.
Yeah, I think we brought this up in a previous episode of MTV. We mentioned that Christian Bale was kicking off that the limelight wasn't on him. Quite a bit because everyone knew this was Joker. Obviously, Heath had died and whatnot, so he
everyone went in for the Joker movie.
Yeah, I think do you remember when he outbursted on the set of Terminator?
Yeah,
I think that was like incorporated from that.
Oh wow, so it's anger from that.
Yeah, and then he put it onto that. Yeah, apparently so. That's the rumor anyway. It's not. Was that the one? Not an official one.
Was that after then? Terminator Salvation did after. Was that the film he did?
Yeah, so that was the one he did straight after.
That kind of makes sense
because because obviously films are a year back, aren't they? So he was actually filming Terminator in 2008 whilst Dark Knight was out.
And during Hatfield's death as well.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
So
that makes sense. Yeah, totally.
So that makes
wow.
That's the rumor anyway. That's not never official, is it? There's always a backstory, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very good pick. Like I said, he's everything. He's the whole package, wasn't he? It was like Tim said, a scene stealer. It's an iconic character. Did it his own way. Apparently, a lot of it was very ad-libbed. He did it all himself.
Yeah. Very much get that impression. Yeah.
Which I'm quite intrigued to think of what Christopher Nolan's actual version of Joker was. If that was just all Heath, then what was Chris's version of it? I was
trying to go AWOL and just take it for himself. You've got to have some direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got a feeling that Nolan just wanted a good actor. Because obviously, Heath Ledger, he is a good actor, but it's not one you'd think of.
No,
but maybe Nolan that was just like a personal favourite of his. It's like Steven Spielberg's favourite actor was it Pierce Bosworth or something?
Yeah, Peter Bosworth.
Peter Bosworth,
yeah.
And it's like he's not exactly an A-list actor.
It's weird you say that because he makes him out he was his favourite character, but actor, but it was only one of his movies.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Yeah.
So, it's almost like. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so maybe it's a personal touch. They just thought, I want. Well, he wants to work with Heath Ledger.
Yeah,
and he just feels like he's got something. Maybe he just no one else saw it, and he's seen it. He's like,
what? Doubling down on that outside character.
Yeah, it's not about how the Joker's going to look. I just want the best person to play the role, and
Did he say with quotes other than the grumbling of "I'm Batman"? What else did he say? No idea. But Joker, God, you got
people complain about bloody Bane and his voice, but. Gone and you go, all the time.
He's a very small, when you have pieces in films which are obviously the henchmen or X, Y, and Z. They're there for a period of time. They're there to do their job. They're not the entire film. Like Joker, obviously he's a linchpin, but then you get the tirade of his company staff, i.e., Bane, Poison Ivy, X, Y, Z. Yeah. So it's a hierarchy, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And maybe and going back, very quickly, you going back to there was going to be a second one.
Yeah.
If he hadn't have obviously passed away. But there were rumours that they were making out that or theory, should I say, that the Joker was working for someone.
Yeah, and do you know who it was?
No.
It was going to be Tom Hardy playing it, but it wasn't even going to be as Bane. It was going to be Hugo Strange.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Because originally it was going to be Hugo Strange and Joker.
I never knew that.
Would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But because obviously Joker died and they thought, we can't have Hugo Strange there. And then that's when they did the whole Bane.
Yeah, because there was people saying, if you look back, he's reading instructions and stuff like that, which obviously he wouldn't do if it's his plan at the end of the day. So
they went with the whole.
That would have been a good theory.
Yeah, they went for the whole full circle where it started off with Ra's al Ghul, ends with Ra's al Ghul's daughter. So I guess they just wanted to make that circle thing, but originally
connected to the first one.
Yeah. So it kind of has that kind of poeticness about it. But no, I would love to have seen a Hugo Strange.
Yeah, it would have been
That
intriguing.
Would have been amazing.
Yeah,
and so it's such a not a big character, like everyone knows like Mr. Freeze and all that kind of stuff and Riddler, but Hugo Strange, no one really,
because he's not a standout character, is he?
exactly.
It's another one that uses
makes
the
it more
mind and
interesting.
stuff.
That would have been more interesting. Yeah, a lot more. So, but yeah, it's still
Phil, number 2, sir.
Oh God, number 2.
Hey.
Okay, right. Here's another one for you. This is a split, okay? Because it's portrayed by the same person, almost doing the exact same character, but by 2 different names in 2 different films.
okay.
So the films are Heavyweights, Disney classic from 1995.
Oh, I know.
And Dodgeball.
Yes.
And the character I'm talking about is Tony Perkis, the camp, Camp Hope owner.
Yeah.
He buys the camp from an elderly couple, turns it into a an exercise
gym.
fat camp. The other is White Goodman, who owns Globo Gym in Dodgeball. I just love Ben Stiller anytime he's shouting or being a heel.
Honestly, it's
if
funny.
you've seen him in Happy Gilmore, he's the nurse staff at the elderly home.
Yes,
He is brilliant. When he snaps, he's absolutely brilliant. Same as again on Heartbreak Kid. With the Mexican band. Yeah, for me, Tony Perkis, I side more than White Goodman because Tony Perkis was the original. He can lift logs above his head when he runs. He can do 20 mile bike rides. He cuts the kids off from their lunch because he says they've got a lack of hustle. It's just, if you haven't seen the film Heavyweights, it's made by Disney. It's got Kenan Thompson in it. It's got a whole host of actresses and actors that you would recognise.
A few from Mighty Ducks, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's basically the Mighty Ducks crew. But if you haven't seen it, it is a gem. And Ben Stiller
totally agree.
in this role is one of his best. And I still want a Tony Perkis shirt. I'm not going to lie.
Find it.
And the headband.
I was just looking it up. I don't think I've even heard of it.
Yeah, see this film.
Written
It
by
is-
Judd Apatow.
Yes,
Yes.
it is a classic, but it's not talked about. And
it's underrated.
if you watch it maybe twice, because first time round you'll be like, "What the hell is this crap?" But then second
Then
time
go back
round,
and look at the comedy. It's
Oh, it's
very
so
good.
good.
Yeah, but I see what you mean by the 2. It's because of White Goodman as well.
Yeah.
It's because when Ben Stiller's over animated, like just that instead of being awkward dad in his other films, like he's more of a caricature of his personality, which is so much more funnier and a lot more better.
like in Envy. Have you seen that one with him and Jack Black?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he obviously gets envious and jealous of his friend who creates this thing that can diminish dog poo. He gets all the rights and all the wealth for it, and obviously gets to live in a massive house. And
Next door.
there's just so many good scenes in this film with Ben Stiller, even though you can tell he's playing the protagonist, but it gets wound up very easily. And what's the scene where is it Tim Robbins comes to the door? If you've not, just see Envy with Ben Stiller, and you're it's so funny.
Do you not ever think that Tony Perkis is Dwight in Dodgeball?
I think it's the same
Because at the end of Heavyweights, he goes off into like a mental home, doesn't he?
the limo window sills, doesn't he? Because he's got this kind of like I've been defeated perpetual look
Exactly.
on his face.
So like rebrand his name, go under a different
And he's got a
name.
picture on the wall in Globo of him holding a ball by the horns.
Yes.
Bad.
Which I'm always appreciative of. Anytime you see a film where the main villain has an epithet, what's the word? Effigy of themselves on the wall. It's just brilliant when they do that. It's so narcissistic, but it works for that way. It works
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so annoying because I always liked Lars in
yeah.
Heavyweights, but he goes face at the end, which is a shame.
But he would have been a good
heel.
actor. He's from a lot of 80s films like Revenge of the Nerds, and he always played a jock. So that's why he's in that as well, because he's the kind of sports jock that you would normally hate if obviously you've been forced to do exercise against your will. So I researched his roles as well, and it's obviously he plays the kind of standardised sports jock in a college. But
if he'd stayed heel, he probably would have made the list. But
he would have made the list, but he sold out.
he sold out big time. Yeah.
But Ben Stiller
good one.
in a number 2
Good
for me.
choice. Good choice. Heavyweights is very underrated.
Very.
It's a shame it went under the radar. So number ones, we're down to the number ones. Obviously, we know Tim's already. So my number 1 is So my number one, it was a hard choice, but it's a character that I fondly like and love, and again, probably not to you guys as the best bad guy, but it's also a bad guy that was portrayed by one of my favourite actors, which is Tim Curry. You can see where this is going.
I know which one.
This is going to be Prince of Darkness from Legend, where he personifies being the devil.
Yes.
And the makeup in that is just fucking phenomenal. And you can tell it's done by the guy who did the practical effects for the Thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Robert Bodine.
Yeah, Robert Bodine.
Who did Howling as well.
Howling, yeah. Oh, I didn't know.
And again, Tim Curry just personifies that character, like what he's given with script-wise, because the script is very, if you look at it or hear it, should I say, is very Shakespearean, if you will.
Yeah.
To a degree.
It's his delivery that makes it, definitely.
Yeah.
Because anyone else reading that line, if you read the lines, it's kind of corny, and because it's a fairy tale, isn't it? So it comes off kind of impish almost, but yeah, he.
But Tim Curry just nails it, mate.
It's terrifying. That's a kids' film.
Yes, it's like this was.
It's a kids' film.
That's a PG.
Yeah, it was a PG-rated movie at the time.
Came on, I saw it during in the afternoons on ITV, when I was probably 7, 8, 9.
Yeah,
but yeah, I remember seeing it. Yeah, it's terrifying, man.
Yeah, it's like. Unfortunately, there's two different cuts to the film. So on the one that was on the TV, you actually saw him at the beginning of the movie. Whereas the director's cut, he's actually revealed later on, coming out of a mirror and trying to seduce the princess, if you will, sort of thing. And that was more effective. I'm kind of gutted that I saw the TV version first, and it was kind of ruined because it's kind of different because his character is under black light, so he looks blue and green eyes, whatnot. So it's very cool how he looks at it. But obviously, the way he looks is. Obviously, he's red and the horns with the devil and whatnot. And to this day, my mum is terrified of him.
Yeah, he is.
It's like she obviously she's a devout Catholic, whatnot. So when
that'll be it.
So when she sees Tim Curry as the devil, she is literally terrified.
But when you watched Home Alone, you were equally as petrified, I assume.
She was.
Because him standing behind
sorry, sir, but I'm afraid you're mistaken.
Going back to the two versions you've seen, I was the same as you. I saw the US version.
The US version was the TV version.
That's what they showed on TV, and I was the same with you, where they showed you all glow in the dark and you had the tangerine scream
Yes,
score.
that's the one.
It's interesting because obviously you say it's better that you don't see them until later on.
I preferred it, but yeah.
But it's that new. I think it's that thing about perspective. Like the older you get, the more you. It's like me with the favorite film used to be that one, and or when you're a child, you'd watch all the Indiana Jones films. Yes. When you was a kid, Temple of Doom was your favorite, and as you got older, you realise no, actually, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah. So
I agree.
Yeah, so it's like that with the Legend movie. So you have the nostalgia version, like when you go back to the childhood era.
Yeah,
and then you have like the respectful. More perspective era of the director's cut.
Yeah.
Even with Blade Runner and stuff. So
absolutely. Good analogy. Yeah.
So I totally agree with your sentiment on that one. So
that's
a good pick, to be honest. It's a really good. pick.
I don't think that obviously the Devil's been in many other movies, but there's nothing that has topped Tim Curry's version of it. I mean, I remember when the poster came out. It literally was him on the front doing this weird smile. And I'm like, this movie's going to be camp and whatnot. But when you watch it, it is dark, it is gritty. And for a PG film, this is...
And for a Ridley Scott film, a lot of smoke.
And that
man uses a fog machine like no other director in this world.
So even though he looks like the devil in this movie, he's not in theory the devil, is he? He's called the Prince of Darkness.
He's darkness.
And you hear his father, which you can only assume... Is the devil personified?
He is darkness in devil form.
Yeah, and
whatever he is.
I remember I always wanted to see what if he looks like the devil, then what would his father look like? Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm guessing that's up to your interpretation.
Exactly.
Of what that is, so that makes it more terrifying.
Yeah. So that's why he has to be my number one.
Nice. Legend is actually one of my favorite teaser trailers of all time. The teaser trailer for that is the best teaser trailer. I love that teaser.
Save that for another episode.
Oh, hey.
Nice.
Right, my number one's done. Sorry.
Did you want to touch up anything on it?
Yeah, man. I'm sure you've got more.
Oh,
have you not?
There was number one was that. I can do honorable mentions, but
no, I thought you might have more to say on it.
Pretty much said most of it. Yeah. I mean, it's number one film. It's the best film of all time. It beats everyone.
We can do honourable mentions after we finish.
Sure,
more in your.
I mean,
we've also covered my number one. Except it was your number 5. So again, I was just going to kind of throw out some other ideas.
Let's do Phil's number one, and then we could do honourable mentions.
Right.
There we go.
Do I really have to say more on who my
We all
number
know.
one is?
Well, we know, but the people that are listening don't know.
We're purposely not mention this. But
No, but it comes with a twist, this.
Okay.
So bear with me. I'm just going to lay it out,
Ooh,
and you can make your own head or tail of this. Right.
Okay.
My number one is Biff Tannen from Back to the Future.
Yes, get out.
He is the sports jock antagonist to Marty McFly, the protagonist in the film. Basically, it's a crusade through time to realign the timelines and get everything back to normal. There's a lot in there with a flying DeLorean and a crazy wild-eyed scientist. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it. I would just like to make a mention that Tom F. Wilson, if you have seen him outside of the Biff character, is a very entertaining person. He does stand-up, he does sing-alongs as well. He's probably one of the most talented people that they actually had on the set at that point in time, along with Crispin Glover. Marty McFly, obviously played by Michael J. Fox, was of family ties at the time.
Sorry.
So yeah, Tom F. Wilson as Biff Tannen. My secondary point to that is the biggest hill of all time, pun intended, is time, because time kills all. And the film Back to the Future is about a race against time, and if they don't complete their mission, the whole entire space-time continuum ceases to exist. So at number one for me, it's Tom F. Wilson with Biff Tannen character, but also time itself. So yes, that's
Do you remember the movie Irreversible?
Yes.
Right, so literally the end of the film, it says the ultimate killer is time.
time.
Yeah, so it's
So I was
very,
thinking
very true.
about that when I was making my list, that I wanted to finish on something which was a big hoo-ha.
Nice.
So yeah, time for me. But Biff Tannen will always go down to me as one of the greatest heels of all time.
Nice.
I hated him at the beginning, but now I love him. So
It's that perspective thing.
So is there a favourite version of Biff?
I think Old Man Biff is possibly the most heelist and villainous, because he has learnt a lot over time. He knows that the almanac exists and how to manipulate time travel. Griff is obviously off the rails and has malfunctioning circuitry.
Yes.
There is also Grandma Tannen, which you never see, which is
I'd
obviously...
say she's more hill than Biff.
She's probably more of a hill. She shouts at him for going to the bloody prom.
And she makes him rub her toes.
True as well. Also, like to mention with the whole Back to the Future thing, Marty does not have a Tannen himself. I'm sure we've mentioned this before. There's a Tannen for the father, George McFly. And that carries through with him from the 50s. But Marty's only got Needles. So Needles, played by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, must get a mention as well.
Obviously,
but Tom F. Wilson for me.
Would you not say the tracksuit wearing Biff is Marty's version?
Because I don't know, because he kind of when he sees the flying DeLorean and he says there's something all familiar about this, and then you'd think that he'll twig, but you never see that storyline continue past 2 for that green tracksuited Biff Tannen, if you know what I mean. He's almost a simp at that point. He's completely downtrodden, and he's he's a pawn to George McFly, as retarded as that sounds. But yeah, Biff Tannen.
Nice.
Number one.
Yeah.
Good choice. And time itself.
So
Yeah, do you want to throw in some honourable mentions before we head off?
I've got loads. So
Go for it.
Someone
Roll
else
it out. Well, I'll just throw in a couple. I did have some. I obviously had Fletcher from Whiplash.
Oh, good one. Damn it. How did I not
Oh,
think of that?
shit.
I frigging love that guy.
Yeah,
I mean, he
fantastic.
beats the shit out of him from day one. And even though there's a point where you think he's coming on to being a good guy, he still throws it and makes out he's still the bad guy. He sets him up big time and fucks him well over. It's not until the very, very end of the film where he maybe is slightly faced at the end, but
it's the mutual understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's the respect.
Definitely Fletcher from Whiplash.
I
love that actor as well. I first saw that actor in the TV series Oz.
Yes.
Where he played.
Yes, I love it. Oz is awesome.
Yeah. My God, he was terrifying.
Yeah, he was, and he was fucking built in that.
He's a big bastard. Yeah.
Joe Jonah Jameson.
That's it. Yeah. T1000, obviously, Robert Patrick.
Yes.
I did have Thanos, but then again, that's comic book territory. I didn't know whether to put that in or not.
Yeah, I kind of had a grouping of Thanos, Loki, Joker, Bane, Darth Vader, Palpatine, all kind of comic books.
Yeah, because I
said the Carpathian.
Yeah. I technically had Freddy Krueger in there, but again, that's a monster movie list, so he couldn't go in the list. Darth Maul as well, being the badass the badass is, and doesn't even say, he theory says 2 lines in the movie, but and
I wasn't sure if Darth would fall under minion rather than.
This is the issue. That's for no reason why I didn't make the list, and obviously I did put Darth Vader in there, but I don't think
pretty much.
I don't think he's
goes without saying, doesn't it?
But this is the thing, is that I don't see Darth Vader as much of a bad guy as like Si saying. In theory, it's technically Palpatine. He's the one that brainwashed him and whatnot. So I won't go into that. That's another episode. But that's my
Star Wars is essentially an episode in itself.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I didn't want to throw Darth Vader in. So yeah. Anyone else?
I've got Debo from Friday, played by Thomas Tiny Jr. Lister.
Tiny Lister.
I've also
didn't he play the president in Fifth Element?
Yeah, he did.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
I've got David Barry in Labyrinth as King Jared.
Yes, from the massive codpiece.
This was one I was going to say Mars Attack, Alien and Ambassador, but you said you've seen it. Vigo the Carpathian, Jonesy from Dreamcatcher, played by Damian Lewis.
Yes.
Okay.
Very comical, that one. I like that.
In Hancock, the villain Red, played by Eddie Marsan, who gets both of his arms cut off. You've seen that.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't remember that. I love Eddie Marsan, but I don't remember that character at all.
He's the British actor.
Yes, the British one. Yeah. You already mentioned him earlier, Colonel Miles Quaritch. Dennis Hopper as Cooper from Mario Brothers.
As King Cooper, yeah.
Dr. William Weir from Event Horizon, played by Sam Neill.
Fuck.
Mama Fratelli from The Goonies, played by Anne Ramsey.
Yes, Jesus Christ.
Madison Bell from Swim Fan, played by Erica Christensen. Bowler Hat Guy in Meet the Robinsons, Stephen J. Anderson. Okay. This was one that I was going to put in because he played so many multiple roles, but it just didn't make the cut. And that is Rhys Ifans from Kevin and Perry Go Large as Eyeball Paul.
Yes.
He's also in Enduring Love and plays Jed.
That's right.
Yes.
And Adrian in Little Nicky with Adam Sandler. Also, Tim, I thought you would say him because we always talk about him. Michael Shannon. He's in a film called Let's Go to Prison. If you've seen that, see it.
Well, Michael Shannon is
he a bad guy in Iceman?
Yes.
He is the bad guy. Yeah.
He's one of my. When I mentioned I had 4 actors that when I think of them, I think terrifying bad guy. Michael Shannon is it. General Zod in Batman vs Superman and whatever.
Man of Steel.
Yeah.
I will find him.
I think it was one of the bad guys in Shape of Water.
Yes, he was. Yeah. He lost his finger.
He plays an utter dickhead in Premium Rush, which is a kind of a action thriller with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the cycle career in New York.
It's Grant's favourite movie.
Well, it's one of my favourites as well because I'm a big cycling fan and I love New York. So that combination, he plays an utter dickhead.
I actually watched that movie on the way to my stag do.
Oh yeah.
The thing is, he's one of he's villainous in that because he knows he's doing wrong. And because I think he's actually technically a lawman as well. He's a policeman.
He's a copper, isn't he? Bent copper.
And he totally disregards all of what should be his moral standpoint and just goes, yeah, but I'm fucked, so I'm fucking you more. So I don't get it.
Yeah.
Also, Dr. Evil.
Yes.
Business Eric from Billy Madison.
Yeah.
Okay, this is way out of left field. Hugh Grant from The Gentleman.
Yes. Yeah.
We should have.
Is he a bad guy though? He's just a guy trying to get money though, isn't he?
They're all bad guys in the film.
Yeah, okay.
Was this the drug thing recently?
The recent one, yeah.
Tom Cruise from Tropic Thunder as Les Grossman.
Nice.
Oh my god!
Nice.
Alan Rickman, you mentioned him earlier, Robin Prince of Thieves, which led me on to Roger Rees in Men in Tights as the Sheriff of Rottingham. That's where I got my lines crossed. Richard Lewis, played by King in Men in Tights as well. Bricktop from Snatch, played by Alan Ford.
Yeah, he is good.
And another one that came out on my list that I just didn't have enough room for, and that's Shooter McGavin.
Shooter McGavin!
Gilmore.
Of course, Shooter McGavin.
So, yeah.
I was surprised it didn't make the top 5.
I thought I had a list.
I thought Shooter McGavin.
So that was, it was so hard.
Shooter McGavin was in mine, actually, to be honest.
I thought it would be.
But it was verging on too much. I had too much comedy in my thing to sort of be like, I can't have. I wanted to go with Debo, but he's obviously very flat. Isn't it? It's just just steals people's bikes and chains. There's not really much going on there.
Quite niche as well.
But that was.
Yeah, that's a good list.
Yeah, I tried not to put too many comedy ones in there. Can't not mention the wet or sticky bandits from Home Alone.
Yeah, of course,
Marvin Harry.
Classic.
Yeah. the Grand High Witch played by Angelica Houston in the
Yes,
Witches movie.
yeah.
One of my favourites as a kid, and one, you said Tim Curry terrified you as a kid.
She terrified
Jesus.
you. Yeah.
Just awful, pure evil nastiness, but a great film.
Are you going to see the remake? Anne Hathaway's playing her.
No way.
Yeah, you don't know that.
I love Anne Hathaway.
Oh,
So
there you go. So that's totally sold.
We mentioned briefly on the way in Judge Doom from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Of course, yes.
Again, quite literally cartoon villain, but my God, it was fun.
Scary as well when his eyes pop out. Jesus.
Phil mentioned Dr. Evil just then. Can't not mention Kevin Smith and Dogma. You had some great villains in there. Not least Jason Lee's Azrael.
Azrael, yeah.
True.
So fun. So again, that's another.
It wasn't Loki and Barnaby the bad guys in that.
Yeah, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Potentially bring about the end of all existence. So, self-serving villainy. And it's a great example, I think, to Tim's point towards the beginning. The actors having the most fun playing the dickhead role of being the bad guy and just going, I don't need to pretend to be anything other than a bastard.
Yeah. If they're having a good time, we're having a good time.
Yeah. Also, for mainly Anthony's benefit, although I'm sure you guys enjoy it as well, Empire Records, I put in the notion of the man.
That makes sense.
Not Rex Manning. Not Rex Manning.
Rex Manning is a dickhead, but he's not.
Dude, he's
not really a villain.
He's like about to have sex with an underage child. He's fucked up.
I am amazed that in all of this we haven't had Hans Gruber.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. It's almost like
obvious.
The poster child of villainy. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like Darth Vader. It's obvious. Isn't it?
Again, maybe in the top 10 or something, but not top 5. It's too obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then again, Jeremy Irons was a good version of the brother as well. Yeah. I thought he was good as that as well. Simon Gruber or something.
I don't even remember. And then I suppose it's worth mentioning, although I'm not the biggest fan of the older ones, and I don't think the newer ones have as strong villains for my liking, or the Bond villains. Again, it seems almost obvious.
Is there ever one that you had a favourite of, though? Because they're all very bland.
There's two that stand out, which is Ulrich Goldfinger and Ernst Stavros Blofeld.
But are you just doing that out of being a classic villain?
I think it's just kind of the
most knowns.
It's the kind of nostalgia obvious thing. They're not. I mean, they're barely a mention at this point, but I think they kind of set the tone and the archetype in some ways for that allowed stuff like Dr. Evil. I'd more readily put Dr. Evil on the list as kind of the comical pick because he's a more enjoyable villain performance than they were. And then I think we mentioned those four strongest performers: Michael Shannon, Gary Oldman, Alan Rickman, and Daniel Day-Lewis have all got like those standout.
I should just do a film.
Bill the Butcher was close in my list.
Oh,
as well.
yeah, definitely.
Totally.
You want a villain? Get one of those guys.
Yeah. Honorable mentions. So I got Tom Cruise in Magnolia.
Oh, is it?
It's one of his best performances, along with Born on the 4th of July. But he's a misogynistic.
Yeah, I was trying to think of it for a sec.
It's it's almost it's good for Tom Cruise. You don't see him that light. It's like the white good Les Grossman character. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ben Foster in Highway. I forgot. What the fuck's it called? The one with Jeff Bridges. Hello High Water.
Hello High Water. Yeah.
I love Ben Foster in that. I thought he's one of my favorite actors, like as in underrated actors.
He plays seedy, grimy, double-crossing characters really well. He was in 310 to Yuma, I seem to remember, a similar.
He's a good villain. He has a villain face, to be honest.
It's like Sean Bean.
He's
going to turn on you at some point in the film.
Well, there we go. James Bond villain.
Yeah. Trevelyan, is it?
Yeah.
Trevelyan. Yes, yeah.
Now Ben Foster's in my top underrated actors, along with Sam Rockwell.
Fucking love Ben Foster.
Sam Rockwell. So
good.
Another Sam Rockwell villain, obviously in Green Mile. But you can also say Percy. I don't know the actor's name, but the guy who played Percy in Green Mile, a great villain.
Yeah, I know you're
so hateful in that.
Who's the guy that? Remember we were watching that thing? What is it about the two principals of Danny McBride and what's the guy? He's in like loads of Southern drama.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What's his name? He's really good as a heel.
Walter Coggins.
Yes, him. Like, great. Check him out. He's in a film.
What's this on?
What's the film about? Like a church, and it's to do with snake worshipping and stuff, and he's in it. I don't know if he's a heel or not, but like
I haven't seen it. I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Oh, he's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, Walter Goggins is great. In Hateful Eight, even the Hateful Eight movies, like all of them are villains at the end of the day, and they're all good in that. All the characters from there, I'd say they're in there as well. There's honourable mentions.
Yeah, I was going through all the Tarantino stuff. Like who, I couldn't narrow it down to like.
They're all villains.
Yeah, like the whole piece is like all of Reservoir Dogs. They're all technically a villain of some kind.
Yeah.
What was Michael Madsen's colour in Reservoir Dogs?
Blonde.
It's the blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good one.
Yeah.
I love Michael Madsen. If you've seen the video, there's a band called Every Time I Die, and they've got Michael Madsen directing the video, and the thing's being shot as him is directing it. And I'm a massive Michael Madsen film fan, so obviously see the video if you've not seen that. Every Time I Die, I can't remember that thing. I'll send it to you.
Sure,
Michael Madsen's in that, and you'll enjoy that.
Shout out the Butcher in AEW.
Yeah. Big Andy.
So other ones I had Aaron Taylor Johnson in Nocturnal Animals.
Oh yeah,
amazing,
cracking movie that is.
Amazing performance. Other one was Kevin Bacon, The River Wild.
Oh yeah,
but, I love him in that film. Oh, I love it. I don't know if this is one, but Burt Reynolds in Deliverance. Is he a heel though? Because he's not.
I was going to say, is he?
I don't know.
I don't know it well.
I wasn't sure on that
He's
one.
a chaotic neutral.
Well, he's narcissistic and he's a sociopath. But he's intense just to get his mates out.
I was going to say,
but he is a bit
debatable.
Malicious. It is very debatable, that one. But he's not a nice guy. You can't say he's a nice guy, not. But no. But he's enjoying the thrill of like, he just, a murder's been committed, and like everyone else, you'd panic. Any normal person would panic. But him, he's like, now it's a new game. And that kind of is heelish. That's kind of a villain thing, to be honest.
Of a similar
never
era.
I have to go back and watch it, to be honest.
It's a tough one to call, isn't it?
Tempted to mention the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Is he heel though?
Well, no, he's not a villain, really. He's badass.
Yeah. I'll give him that, but he's not a villain, is he?
No, but it did pop into my head because pretty much the only interaction you see is him being.
I say the sniper at the end is a heel. Well, no, it's a good pick. You going back to Gary Oldman? I forgot to mention. I love his portrayal as Dracula.
Okay.
Don't know whether it's intentionally a villain because his intentions are what happened to his backstory, why he's the way he is. But I always liked it as a bad guy persona of it.
It's very. I think it's his most over the top role.
Yeah.
I mean, more so than Leon. I mean, he's over the top than Leon, but Bram Stoker, it's just.
And quick shout out to Kevin Nash as Super Shredder.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Where is he? He's there.
There he is. Yeah. That it? Any more mentions? If not, we'll call it there.
I said call it there, dude.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I just want to say big thank you for doing this episode again, guys. I really appreciate you coming along and doing this for us. If you enjoyed what you listened to, guys, please follow us on Facebook at the M.T.V.B. Podcast or on Instagram at M.T.V.B. Podcast. Subscribe to be notified when future episodes are available. So for now, it's Ant-Man, Phil, Cy, and Tim signing off.
Get out of here.